In the heart of a sun-dappled forest lived a young girl named Mary with hair the color of spun gold and eyes as green as the moss on ancient oaks. She lived with her mother in a tiny, crooked cottage, and though they had little, their days were filled with laughter and love. Mary's mother was a weaver, her fingers dancing across the loom to create tapestries that told stories of old. Mary, her devoted apprentice, would gather berries for dyes and listen, wide-eyed, to tales of magical lands and brave heroes. One afternoon, while chasing a butterfly with wings like stained glass, Mary ventured deeper into the woods than ever before. The familiar scent of pine and damp earth gave way to a strange, sweet fragrance of unknown flowers. The light grew dim, filtered through a canopy of deep purple leaves. She found herself in a clearing she didn't recognize, where the air hummed with a quiet, eerie energy. Before she could turn back, a cackle echoed through the trees. Three figures emerged from the shadows. They were the witches of the Gloomwood, their faces a web of wrinkles and their eyes gleaming with malice. They had been watching Mary, drawn by the pure, joyful light that shone from her heart. They saw her not as a child, but as an ingredient, a key to a powerful spell that would amplify their dark magic for 100 years. With a wave of a gnarled hand, the world spun into a vortex of swirling colors, and Mary knew no more. She awoke in a strange and terrifying land. The sky was a permanent twilight, lit by two pale moons. Twisted skeletal trees clawed at the air, and the ground was a patchwork of glowing fungi. This was the elven lands, but not the beautiful realm from her mother's stories. This was a place corrupted, a shadow of its former self ruled by the very witches who had stolen her. They kept her in a cage woven from thorny vines, high in the boughs of a weeping willow whose leaves dripped a black, sticky sap. Days blurred into a monotonous cycle of fear and despair. The witches taunted her, their voices like grinding stones, telling her she was forgotten, that her mother had already moved on. But Mary refused to believe them. Every night she would close her eyes and picture her mother's face, her gentle smile, and the warmth of their cottage. She would imagine her mother at the loom, her heart heavy with sorrow, weaving tapestries of a lost girl with golden hair. This image, this memory of love, became her shield against the darkness. Meanwhile, back in the human world, a profound sadness had settled over the little cottage. Mary's mother had searched for days, her voice growing hoarse from calling her daughter's name. The forest that was once a friend now seemed like a silent, cruel jailer. The laughter was gone, replaced by an aching emptiness. She sat at her loom, but her fingers were clumsy. The threads tangled, and the stories she tried to weave were all of grief. Her once vibrant tapestries were now muted and gray, reflecting the color of her world without Mary. She grew thin and pale, her misery a palpable cloud that hung over the cottage. The villagers would whisper, saddened by the sight of the weaver who had lost her light. Back in the elven lands, Mary's hope began to take a physical form. The intense love for her mother, the burning desire to return home, coalesced within her. One night, as she focused all her will on the image of her mother's tear-streaked face, a strange warmth spread across her back. A tingling sensation, like pins and needles, started between her shoulder blades. It grew into an intense burning ache. She cried out, not in pain, but in shock. From her back, two small bumps began to sprout. Throughout the night, they grew with astonishing speed, unfurling like the petals of a rare magical flower. By the time the twin moons began to fade, a magnificent pair of wings had fully formed on her back. They were not feathery like a bird's, but membranous and intricate, like the wings of a dragonfly. And they were the color of the deepest crimson, shimmering with an inner light, the color of her love, her courage, and her desperate longing for home. The witches, sensing the surge of unfamiliar magic, rushed to her cage. They stared in disbelief and fury. The pure energy they had wanted to harvest had instead transformed their captive. Mary, seeing their shock, knew this was her chance. She flexed her new appendages. They felt strange, yet completely natural, an extension of her own will. With a powerful thought, she pushed against the thorny bars of her cage. The vines sizzled and recoiled from the pure, loving energy radiating from her wings, crumbling into ash. She was free. Without a second's hesitation, Mary leaped from the branch. For a terrifying moment, she plummeted towards the glowing fungi below. Instinct took over. She beat her crimson wings, clumsy at first, then with growing confidence. The air caught them, and she soared upwards, leaving the screeching witches far behind. Flying was exhilarating, a feeling of pure freedom she had never imagined. The twilight sky was hers to command, but which way was home? The landscape was a disorienting maze of twisted trees and strange landmarks. Despair pricked at the edges of her joy. How could she find her way back? She closed her eyes again, quieting the panic in her heart, and focused. She thought of the smell of baking bread from their hearth, the feel of the worn wooden table, and the sound of her mother's humming. She poured every ounce of her being into that single desire, home. A faint golden thread of light appeared in her mind's eye, stretching from her heart into the distant, unseen horizon. It was a compass of love, a beacon only she could see, pointing the way. With a surge of renewed hope, she followed it. Her journey was long and perilous. She flew over jagged mountains where sharp winds tried to tear her from the sky and across vast, shadowy swamps where unseen things slithered below. She learned to navigate by the strange constellations of the elven realm and to find sustenance from glowing fruits that grew on the underside of rock ledges. Her red wings grew stronger with every beat, carrying her tirelessly towards the golden thread that pulled her onward. She never stopped, fueled by the image of her mother, waiting and grieving. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she saw a shimmer in the air ahead. It was a tear in the fabric of the world, the veil between the elven lands and her own. It was the portal the witches had used. With one last powerful push, she burst through it. The sudden brightness of the sun made her squint. The air was clean and filled with the familiar, comforting scent of pine. She was back in her own forest. Below her, nestled in a clearing, was her home, the tiny, crooked cottage. A thin plume of smoke curled from its chimney. She landed softly in the garden, her crimson wings folding neatly against her back. The world was blessedly, beautifully normal. She ran to the door and pushed it open. Her mother was at the loom, her back to the door. Her shoulders were slumped, and the tapestry before her was a sea of gray and black threads. Mary's heart broke. "Mother," she whispered, her voice trembling. The weaver froze. The shuttle fell from her hand, clattering on the floor. She turned around slowly, her face a mask of disbelief and cautious hope. Her eyes, red-rimmed and hollow, widened as she saw her daughter. She saw the golden hair, the green eyes, and then the impossible sight of the magnificent red wings. Tears streamed down her face, but these were not tears of sorrow. She rushed forward, and Mary ran into her arms. They held each other, a whirlwind of sobs and laughter. The crushing weight of grief that had burdened the weaver for so long simply vanished, replaced by an overwhelming, radiant joy. The cottage, which had been so dark and silent, was instantly filled with a light brighter than any sun, the light of their reunited love. Mary was home, and the world was right again. Her extraordinary journey had ended, right where it was always meant to, in her mother's loving embrace. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more magical tales. See you next time.